Hey, thanks for checking out the video. If you all like it, please like and subscribe, and hope you all enjoy it. Have a great rest of the day. What do y'all know about the American Revolution? Anything at all? When she was about 15 or 16 when we started, my other kids were younger, and she's been doing it since. Matter of fact, her son, after she got married, his first event, he was a month old, but he went to, and he's 18 now. So, but anyway, at the start in 1775, basically they didn't have an American army. It was all militias, and those guys were required to own their own firearms. So they might have had a musket, but more than likely they would have had either a fowling piece, and in the South it would have been rifles. I've got 4 rifles here, and if you want to step over here and look at them, this one right here is a style that probably would have been built about 1710. It's a 62 caliber, and you see it's got the grooves in there for the rifling, and 62 is a pretty big ball. But it's got an English style lock, but a German style barrel on it, and the club butt design, because they made a lot of club butt Fowlers up in New England, but it came from a French, Germanic design, Middle European, and you've heard of the pirates and the buccaneers. That comes from the word buccaneer, which were the guys that were going on the islands where the Spanish had left cattle and killing them. And they had guns similar to this, except they were smoothbores. Okay. But this has a Jaeger style rifle, and I started looking at some original Jaegers that actually have this style stock. They weren't as common. But what throws that off is that it's got the English lock instead of the German lock. And then I have this gun here that's probably 1740s or 50s, very Germanic, Dutch styling. It has the German style lock. And this is actually almost an earlier, you'll see this style of trigger guard on wheel locks. And when I first bought the gun, I'd never seen one with a trigger guard like that, and I had a guy tell me, well, that looks like a Dutch piece. And this is a 54 caliber, 36-inch barrel, which is a little bit long for what they consider Jaegers, because they used them on hunting. They were hunting guns, and would have usually 12 to 30-inch barrels. This one's a little bit longer, but this is it's got black walnuts, so this would be a gun that would have been made here in the colonies by the German gunsmiths, and they're going from this style to the 2 longer, smaller, the American long rifle, Pennsylvania rifle, and this is a Virginia rifle. Because in Pennsylvania, by the Revolutionary War, they started making the guns longer. And part of that is for the sight distance between the 2 sights, makes the gun more accurate. Okay. Plus, it gives more time for the powder to burn up. But this one's a 50 caliber. So they're going to a smaller ball because you don't need a great big huge ball to shoot a whitetail deer. 50 caliber, way plenty strong enough. And it saves on the lead and powder. It takes less lead and powder than this one or this one does. Okay. And this one is also a 50 caliber, and you see it's much plainer, where the Pennsylvania rifles were also often very highly engraved. They'll have nice inlays and stuff. In Virginia, this is more of a backcountry. It's a working tool. Right. You got guys that are hunting, they're wanting a gun, and you would also see some of these, which would be similar to a Fowler called smooth rifle, because it's got a rifle stock, but it would be a smooth when you can shoot shot in it too. Okay. But in the northern colonies, you would more likely have what's known as a Fowler, what we would call today a shotgun, which is a smoothbore gun. You can shoot ball, they call them Fowlers because they would hunt birds with them, ducks, waterfowl, stuff like that. And I'm going to step around to the other side because that's where my Fowlers are. I have this one here, and this one is a copy, but it's been modified. See, it's got a trade serpentine side plate. You'd see a lot of the trade guns because the Indians liked them. Right. They're called dragon or serpentine. But this gun, if you look here, you see this here on there. That's called a dog. It's a dog lock or dog catch. And this one's been modified so it actually has a regular full cock. But this was the style of lock that would have been on the early British muskets before the brown vests in like the 1690s up into the 1720s. And this gun is a copy of one that's called the Cookson Fowler. If you want to look it up, they sell them as New England Fowlers, not the reproductions. And what it is, they matched it's a composite gun. The guy's hooking an old lock off an old British musket. The barrel, I think they said it was Dutch. I don't quite remember, but it's 51 inches long. It's a 69 caliber, which is the same size as my French muskets, but it's just a big bore shotgun. And I shot this one with lead ball, and I shot in them. So, because I do take these out and actually shoot them as well as shooting blanks for stuff like this. I take them to the range and play with them too. This one, the one that in the museum this is copied from was made about, they're guessing 1750.
Okay.
So he could have actually got a regular flintlock, but he's using an older style lock on this. And it may have been somebody collecting some parts, took them to the gunsmith and said, here, build me a gun. The other gun I have here is what's known as a Colonial or English Fowler. And this also has, the butt plate is very similar to the Pennsylvania rifles there. And it's got an English trade lock on it, just a plain side plate, a little jimping on the screws, which makes it nice. And then it's got a 62 caliber 20 gauge smoothbore, so you could load a ball in it or you could load shot in it. It's basically like a modern 20 gauge shotgun. And the other, and this also would have been English style. The other Fowler, or this is actually called a fusil de chasse. It's spelled F-U-S-I-L, but it's French, so they pronounce it fusil. And this is a French trade gun. They traded them to the Indians. French trappers and stuff would carry them. And these date back into the 1720s, 30s, all the way up to past the War of 1812. A lot of these were brought into Canada. But a lot of people don't realize they were brought into New Orleans and Mobile because the French held it during the French and Indian War.
Right.
So this gun would date back to, I use this at some of my French and Indian War sites that I do.
Yeah.
That's why I have different time periods of guns, because one, the stuff from the French and Indian War, if it survived to the American Revolution, early in the war, that's what the guys were using, because we didn't have arms coming in until in 1778, the French started sending a lot of their French muskets, but before that, Silas Deane, Benjamin Franklin had Silas Deane go into Europe in 1776, 77, and they were buying up all kinds of guns of different manufacturers. And that's when you run into like the early French guns. Now, when the French actually started supplying us, they were sending us this type of Charleville. But Silas Deane was able to get his hands on these here. This is a 1717 French musket, and this is a 1728. So the French army wasn't using them, but they did come in later. Plus, let me step back over here.
Oh yeah.
Same thing you
We come around over here because
then you're going to have it with...
You wanna go with the shade? You want to go get the shade?
this one right here. This right here is what's called as a Potsdam musket, used by the Prussians. It's got the crest of Frederick the Great. They probably, coming from Prussia, they didn't send mercenary troops in like the Hessians and stuff. They stayed out of it, but since they were Germanic principalities, they would have had a gun similar to this, and a lot of these guns were made similar to this, were made what they call Dutch muskets. And I found in records where even during the French and Indian War, there were some of the British troops were using Dutch muskets. I'm going to move on to the British arms.
Cut it off the cob to keep it...
When the French and Indian War, and the American Revolution started, there were a lot of these here, what's known as a longland pattern. This is from the 1740s. This is the arm the British military was using during the French and Indian War, plus they had stockpiles of these brought in for the different colonies' militia units. And this one right here, this is an artillery musketoon. It's a cut down version because those guys would be riding on the horses with the cannons and stuff. So they didn't want a big gun getting in the way because they're having to get up and down on horses. I'm trying to speed this up a little bit because one, it's hot and my voice is starting to
Oh, yeah.
But given that they had these, this was predominantly because even the shortland pattern muskets, this one here and this one here, the British troops that were here didn't get the newest model. This was adopted in 1760. So a lot of them that were here were still using this gun. But the thing with these two, I'm going to do this one first because it's brown. This gun, when I got it, because I use it for a French and Indian War site, and it's like, oh well, because there's not enough. But they also, in the 1750s, these were being produced, but not for the British Army. It was their militia and marine muskets. Because the militia laws in Britain, as well as here in the colonies, was each household had to have a functioning firearm, preferably a musket. So they were selling these on the civilian market before the British adopted it as their arm. And then with the new troops coming in 1776, they would have the shortland musket, which both of these are shortland. And it was basically, they just copied the earlier, cheaper made musket. And then I've got this one here, which is an India pattern gun. The British military adopted it in, and you can see it's even a little bit shorter. Same caliber, because you're going from a 46-inch barrel to a 42 down to a 39. But, when I first started reenacting it, they said, don't get an India pattern. They didn't have them. They weren't using them. And I was going through, and I had already bought one because my grandson wanted a smaller, lighter gun. So I had bought one. Actually, it was this one I bought, but we didn't get it for 2 years, so I bought another one, and that's the one he actually uses. But I found out from
2 shillings.
Looking at Smithsonian, they have one, but it's got the East India markings. The East India Company adopted these in 1771. The American Navy captured several East India merchantmen, and one of them had like 5,000 of these. So they brought them in, and there's at least 5,000 in the hands of the Continental Army.
Wow.
I just need to get the British military markings taken off and get East India on there. And I know an engraver. I'm going to see if you can do that.
Huh?
I'm almost done, but if y'all need to go ahead. It's getting hot out here.
I think I'm gonna walk a little ways over there to the shade.
Yeah, go get in the shade.
Thank you.
Oh, not a problem. I'm glad y'all stopped and let me talk to you.